Welcome everyone to this. Okay, I hope it works. Yeah, welcome everyone to this week's IPLD, or this month IPLD Sync and Community Meeting. As every 4 weeks, we go over the stuff that people have worked on, and then answer any questions, or also have demos if anyone has some. And yeah, just chat about general IPLD and multi-formats topics. Also, in case for the future you would like to present something or talk about the cool IPLD stuff that you've built, feel free to join or let us know about it. Cool. I see that I haven't cleared the notes from last time, it seems. Anyway, I don't have any update from the ecosystem world, so I'm usually look into the Rust stuff, but I don't think there were any major updates there. So does anyone else have updates? I see that Rod is typing.
Yeah, I'm furiously typing. I should have done this yesterday. I had time yesterday to do this. Okay, so there's a bunch of things. I've been working a lot around retrieval stuff again. So this is where I'm spending most of my time now. And so and it's so much of it is IPLD. One of the things that fell out of the work that I've been doing is this new repo in the IPLD org called the Go fixture plate, and it's not just for Go. It's actually a command line tool for a command line tool and library for both generating and inspecting synthetic test data. So Go fixture plate. It's mainly focused on UnixFS data. And this is because it's an annoyance for me of trying to create relatively realistic UnixFS test data in IPLD for retrievals particularly, but for just so many things. You want to have a test fixture that does something realistic. And what a lot of people do, they make a file and they check it into their repo, and then that's their test file. They bundle up in UnixFS and test it that way. Anyway, this project will it's got a little DSL that lets you describe a file and directory structure, and with some extra little parameters where you can you just tell it how to create this UnixFS tree of IPLD data, and it'll go ahead and do it for you, and it'll create that information using random bytes in files and random file names and all that sort of stuff. And you can assert a bit of control over it too when you want to. You can even do things like tell it to just make a file full of zeros if you want to test duplication of blocks, that kind of thing. So it's got a DSL that you can use you can do it on the command line. You can do fixture plate generate, and then you give it this DSL, and it can be as complicated as you want, and it'll give you a car file just full of blocks with all that stuff. And the blocks can describe files that are massive and tiny, and there's hundreds of files, or just a few files in a directory, all that sort of stuff. So it turns out that this has been really useful. I've now I keep on using it in projects, so it's now being used across a few different projects that I touch, just because like yesterday I was working on a project that happens to do some testing with making a deal in Filecoin with some UnixFS data, and it does it by using a single file that's checked into the repo. That's just I think it's the file contains the word test data repeated again and again to make this 6 meg file. So the fixture plate can do that kind of thing. Anyway, that's in there. And and the other thing is it can also do that. The main reason I wrote this tool, the generate thing was really useful, but I really wanted to be able to inspect UnixFS DAGs. So when you have a car file and it's got UnixFS structure in it, to me, and I think for most people, it's probably very opaque when you just got just heaps of CIDs and they fit together in a DAG. But okay, how do you visualize this DAG? With UnixFS, the relationships are really straightforward because not only is the DAG fairly predictable, so UnixFS DAGs are pretty clean, but you can describe it with file names and some extra terminology. So fixture plate has this little command called explain. So you can fixture plate explain, and then you give it a car file, and then you can even do a path in that. You can do a query within that DAG, so you can actually narrow it down to, I just want to do this little bit, and it'll run through the blocks that describe the DAG you care about, and it'll tell you how they fit together. And that was originally useful for creating test fixtures that were about, okay, here's the original DAG, here's the path and the query I want to do through that, and then this is the blocks and this is the order that they should come out in the other end. So I've got a bunch of fixtures where we take a very large DAG and then we do a bunch of queries through it, do paths, we do byte ranges, we do all sorts of things within there. And then the output of fixture plate explain is then used to verify that the application did the right thing. It ran through that path and it returned exactly those blocks in that order. So it's been useful for actually test fixtures, but I'm finding it just generically useful to have on my machine. When I get a car that I know has UnixFS data in it, I can run fixture plate explain. I can see what's in there, and it's so good to be able to see, particularly when you come to things like sharded directories, and to be able to see how they fit together. And it's like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. So it's sort of, I find it a good way to demystify UnixFS in particular. It should be useful for non-UnixFS data too. It's just that it's been more optimized for UnixFS because it's such a known quantity. When we're dealing with non-UnixFS, it gets a bit interesting. So anyway, I'm really happy with that project, and it's been very useful. So I would recommend it to others. A lot of other work I've been doing on a package in the IPLD, a repo in the IPLD org called Go Trustless Utils. I think I've mentioned it before. It's a recent repo, but I think maybe on the last call I talked about it. It's a roll-up of some common tools for dealing with the trustless gateway protocol. There's one of the interesting things there for IPLD people is there's a traversal package in there, which I think is a bit of a model for how we might simplify traversals, and because traversals are hard, traversals are a bit messy, selectors are awkward. And this provides a potential model for simplifying some of that. So it's essentially an interface, a layer over IPLD prime traversals that where you can describe your traversal in terms of paths and a few other constraints. You configure it with a fairly straightforward configuration. This is what I want to traverse, and you describe it in the trustless gateway traversal language, and then it gets translated and run. And that's been one of these things that's just useful to pull in and execute in a bunch of places. And there's also some things in there for HTTP, verifying requests and responses for the trustless gateway protocol. So a bunch of work in there, and then the other one is Lassie as well, which I've been doing a ton of work in, but Frisbee on the flip side of that for serving IPLD data. So Frisbee's been getting a lot of love the last couple of weeks. I just added compression to it this week or this weekend, and I've enhanced some logging stuff in there. So Frisbee's continues to serve Wikipedia from my instance of Frisbee, and it's my test bed, so it works really well. So there's that. There's a bunch of other small things again that I'm chasing up. There's another, just for people's information, there's a bug in the DAG JSON Go codec that I'm trying to chase up, where it will actually accept bad JSON in some instances. So like not even valid JSON. So I've got a fix for that. I've just got to work with Eric to get that merged across in his library that does lots of the JSON parsing. But I'll update on that next time we talk, because hopefully we'll have a release out for that. And lastly, I did want to highlight that the JS multi-formats library, I've got to find this issue. I'll put a link in the notes, but there's two big moves with JS multi-formats, which is at the heart of every IPFS and IPLD application in JavaScript. Everyone uses JS multi-formats. It's our sort of tight, small, minimal core package that does CIDs and a few basic things, abstractions for codecs and hashes and stuff. The team that is now responsible, so I've been largely responsible for that package for a while, but now it's now being put into, well, it's being spread over ownership of the JS lib peer-to-peer and JS, what are they called? IPJS team. So there's a JavaScript team that does lib peer-to-peer and Helia. So that team is going to be now share responsibility for the JS multi-formats package. That should mean that there's more eyes on. We get a lot of issues in there, people questioning things, just asking questions about how this works. A lot of it's JavaScript bundling stuff, which just I find tedious and difficult. But some of these guys have spent a lot of time doing that stuff, so they know it better than I do. So there'll be more eyes on that package. Hopefully not too much churn or change. We all agree that it's pretty complete as it is, and most work should go on outside it. We don't want to make this package bigger. That was the whole point, to make it small. The other big thing is that team has agreed that the code base will be converted to TypeScript. So there's a big old pull request that I will link. I can put the link here. So this has been a proposal by community members, and there's been lots of discussion. There's a couple of us that are not so comfortable with TypeScript. Don't see the necessity of it, but because it's got TypeScript annotations. But the team that is going to have eyes on that is much more comfortable with it, and they think that's a good idea. And so that's fine. So fine by me. I mean, so that will be coming soon. There'll be some work to try and get that ready, and there'll be a major release kind of that once that's done. And then that might make life more comfortable for some people who are using. I know a lot of people are using TypeScript in our ecosystem. So there's that. And I think that's the main things from me. Yeah.
I remember a small thing, but just yeah, to mention that if people haven't heard of Fireproof, which is a project by Chris, it's about synchronizing data, and he's published some nice kind of like technical in-depth talks about like how it technically works. And there's also like a lot of IPLD things in there. I will probably link also in the notes to the videos, because it's basically, one is an introduction and the other one is really about like, yeah, how he shuffles the data around and so on. And it's, yeah, I think it's quite interesting, because like, yeah, it's for people who are familiar with CouchDB, so it's kind of like a mixture of CouchDB and then also like IPLD and car files, and it also has built-in encryption. And yeah, so it's really like an interesting project to watch. And yeah, and I think the videos are a good introduction into this. Yeah, cool. Do we want to talk anything about multi-formats and IETF stuff, or?
I don't have an update. I got a head cold and blew my deadline. But I am going to do. I'm just going to tear down the proposal, like the charter and the drafts, and kind of start over, being more aggressive about describing the use cases. The feedback from the chairs was, I thought, actually pretty supportive. It was kind of like, this is almost there, but I don't feel like you've answered some of the harder questions on the list. The use cases are kind of hard to understand, like ELI5 it more. So I'm just going to write a more verbose ELI5, preface, and try again and socialize it on the list a month before Prague. Like, a month before Prague is next week. But yeah, the next IETF is here in my neighborhood soon. So that's my game plan. Don't have much news other than that.
Well, it sounds positive.
I'm positive. I feel positive about it. I think after hearing this, a lot of people came out of the woodwork and they're like, "Oh, I talked to someone at ITF and like they were really supportive and they're using multi-formats and like they said next time you apply, they'll write on the list supporting it." So like, I don't know, better the second time around than never.
Yeah.
So I'll have a few more +1s second time around. Hopefully that will work. And in other multi-formats news, Dave Hughesby from the libp2p team, who does a lot of quick and dirty prototypes of things in Rust, as sort of his native language, he needed multi-codec for libp2p purposes, so he just implemented it and sent me the GitHub link on Slack yesterday. So if I don't know, I'm not sure what the process is of testing it against other test vectors or something, but whoever reviews these things can review that thing.
Cool. Yes, I can certainly have a look at it. Yeah.
Cool. And actually, he's in the Filecoin Slack. So if you have any questions, just look for D Hughesby in Filecoin. He's working on libp2p sort of road mapping, nucleation stuff.
Cool. Thanks. Yeah, I will check with him. So that we might have more updates in the future here.
Yeah, I invited him to this, but it was kind of last minute. And he also actually he was asking about not multi-key, but some way of like a multi-format for signatures. And I showed him something that Ceramic's been using that they've been sort of co-designing with Fission at and Spruce at CASA, and he had a lot of strong opinions. So at the next CASA meeting of that group, if they accept some of the opinions or suggestions or rebuke them or whatever, that could actually be another multi at some point. Like it's a pretty lightweight thing. It doesn't necessarily have to be a sub-registry of the whole multi-codec. It could be sort of a side thing like multi-base. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not really sure what the prioritization would be of that, but if people are using it, we can at least point to it as an external thing that some people use. Not for IETF purposes, just as a sort of beginning of the funnel. Here, I think I've linked to it in the past, but wrong button. I can drop a link anyways. It's
I think we've registered a codec code for this so that they could do a whole lot of stuff off the side of it.
Yeah, like they just put they don't need space in the main registry because it's all within one tag after a tag. So
Varsig.
So
this is Varsig, isn't it? That's what it's called. Yeah, so they have a multi-codec entry on number 34. So that the intention was for signatures to come after that multi. Yeah, so they have a whole separate space.
Yeah. And they not a sub registry but a sub namespace. And they I think one of the main beef that Dave had with Varsig is that kind of the age-old question of I don't want to need a car file to know how many segments there are, how many prefixes there will be, So I think the question to work out between the people that have been working on Varsig for a long time and the guy who just heard of it yesterday is whether there is some way to manage that other than just use a car file for key types where you don't know how many sort of pieces of information you'll need. So like some signatures, I don't know, need more than a key and a digest, and that's, I don't know. I didn't follow all the details. I just saw a huge issue listing key types that this won't work for, kind of internal to Varsig. Not a problem for multi-formats, just an interesting sort of design conversation happening there.
Right. Yeah, that is okay. Huh. Yeah, I don't know if there's, I don't know how mature the use of Varsig is. I know the Daghouse team are also using it, but yeah, interesting.
I think the thing is possibly, I know Dave, I don't think it comes up in libp2p, but I know that in other research projects he does a lot of like quantum proof, you know, sort of recent curves and stuff, and they're all just insanely complicated. They just have a million variables. Like you need a key and a curve and a length and a this and a that and a salt and a hash and a doodad. So I think he had in mind key types that he wants to use that he wouldn't be able to use a Varsig for unless it had more structure to it. But I don't know if the Daghouse people necessarily need Varsig version 2.0 anytime soon. So
yeah. It's surprising because that, like, a lot of that work has been, like, JWK had to cover a lot of that stuff. Their key representation formats are.
yeah.
But is signatures? Do signatures need all that, or do you need the key as well as the signature? I don't know. Okay, that'd be interesting to follow up on what's going on there.
Yeah, I'm way out of my depth. I'm just sort of mentioning it. Yeah, and I think a lot of one of the reactions I got to multi-formats in other contexts was, but do you need a car file to know how long everything is? You know, not having the sort of length bit in there, and I probably need a good answer for that before answering the harder questions on the ITF list if they're harder this time.
Well, yeah, feel free to loop us into those kinds of things, because
yeah,
there's a lot of nuance and use case dependent, and it really depends on what do they want. Like, it's a content addressing question. Like, okay, in any content addressing system, do you have the length of the content you're addressing? So yeah, if you want the length, then sure, store the length somewhere, but that's a system dependent thing.
Yeah. Sort of like at the wrong layer, like that's
yeah, exactly.
why you define a schema.
Yeah, IPLD gives you the tools, and if you have needs beyond those basic tools, then just build around it. Like,
yeah,
okay, store a CID and a length if that's something you care about.
Yeah,
I don't know if because it's like the hash will verify the bytes of the right length when you get them, but you know, getting them is the first trick.
Okay, well, cool. Yeah, that's a good start.
Yeah, and yeah, it's context dependent, and it's transport dependent, and a car file is a transport, and it happens to need length, so it does length prefix things. But you know, there's other transports and storage mechanisms that could be used, that people do use, that do different things. So
okay.
Luke Volker and I into any of those hard questions, and we'll probably be able to provide some prior art or some philosophical backing for it.
Okay, awesome. Will do.
Right. Yeah. Does anyone have anything else? I guess not. Then I can already say that the next time we meet is November the 6th. which is like a week before Lab Week for those who are like attending like the big Protocols Network organized event in Istanbul this year. It's the week after. So in case anyone wants to, so I will be there. So if anyone wants to meet me, yeah, and the meeting is right the week before this event. All right. All right. I guess we see us then. And so yeah, see you all in 4 weeks.